You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, fallout after Friday night lights on the football field end with police lights.
That was completely my fault. Tanya was prepared and ready to go. I was actually interrupting her when the show started because I was taking a look at this fog rolling off of the ground outside Television City. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, today marks the deadline, but is this truly the end of U.S. involvement in Afghanistan? All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Authorities and an alleged victim talk about altercations that broke out following a Webb City football game. Following Friday night's football game between Webb City and Joplin, images began circulating on social media, along with what people speculated to have happened in several incidents. In a statement, Webb City PD says they're investigating an alleged assault that occurred near the stadium. We spoke with the alleged victim, who says he was attacked after approaching people trespassing on his property.
All I said was, "Pardon me, do I know you?" And like I said, the next thing he jumping, bumping chest with me, asked me, "What's it in your business?" I just said it's my yard, and the next thing I know, he hits me a couple of times.
Authorities have not made any arrests. The Webb City Police Department says they're still investigating the incident. Electrical crews and first responders from all over the country are responding to calls for mutual aid in Louisiana and Mississippi in the wake of Hurricane Ida. That includes crews from right here in the 4 states. KOAM's Zach Dodge tells us about some of the local crews responding. It's more than 1 million people in the South are without power after the storm.
Dow, a 4-man crew from here at Carthage Water and Electric joined 28 others from around the state to make the trek from here to Louisiana. They left on Saturday, and right now they're headed to Natchez, Mississippi, with the goal of helping get the area's electric grid back up. The guys from here in Carthage were more than willing to help out their neighbors.
All we had to do was tell them that we had received a request, and we immediately had volunteers to go down there. So it's not us saying you need to go down and help. It's them saying we are ready to help. Send us down there. Let us go.
GRGA, as well as several fire and emergency management crews from Oklahoma, have also gone to Louisiana. They took linemen, police, and water rescue crews to help in any way they can. But how can you help here at home? The American Red Cross has also sent crews to the area to help with disaster recovery and say the best way to help right now is monetarily.
Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards says there are roughly 25,000 linemen in the state from 22 states. Former Kansas Governor Jeff Collier is dropping out of the 2022 race for governor after being diagnosed with prostate cancer. Collier was governor for a little less than a year, elevated from lieutenant governor in January of 2018, when GOP Governor Sam Brownback resigned to become U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom. Collier narrowly lost his 2018 primary bid to conservative Chris Kobach. Kobach then lost the general election to Governor Laura Kelly. In his announcement yesterday, Collier says he is endorsing Attorney General Derek Schmidt.
And of course, your 4-state ties right there. Oh, my bad. I'll come back.
One more story, Michael.
Got you.
A Quapaw, Oklahoma man is in critical condition after a crash while he was riding his motorcycle in Delaware County. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol says Raymond Stanley was involved in the crash on County Road 570 north of Grove. Stanley was taken to a Joplin hospital. 2 other people involved in the crash are okay. Highway Patrol is investigating what caused the crash. Officials face a tall order to get all Missouri nursing home workers vaccinated because fewer than half of them have received their shots. 48% of Missouri nursing home workers are vaccinated. That's the 3rd lowest number in the country, trailed only by Florida and Louisiana. Both of those states are reporting 47% of workers vaccinated. 82% of Missouri's nursing home residents are vaccinated, just below the national average. Chief Operating Officer for Prime Healthcare Management, which operates 7 nursing homes across Missouri, says he's already had several employees quit over the vaccine mandate the Biden administration announced for nursing home workers. 2 kids, both younger than 3, were found dead in a Jackson County, Missouri pool. Jackson County Sheriff Darrell Forte says police were called to the home near Smart Road and Bob White Lane southeast of Kansas City on Saturday. A 1-year-old and a 2-year-old had been found unresponsive in the pool. Both children were taken to a local hospital where they died. And Jackson County, Missouri prosecutor Jean Peters Baker has filed a motion asking a judge to exonerate a man who has been in prison for 4 decades for a triple murder that she and many others do not believe he committed. The motion was made public yesterday. It stems from a new law that gives local prosecutors the authority to ask judges to exonerate prisoners who they believe are innocent. Members of the team that prosecuted Kevin Strickland, federal prosecutors in the Western District of Missouri, Jackson County's presiding judge, Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas, some Republican members of the Missouri legislature have all said Strickland should be released. Strickland was convicted of a triple murder in 1978 and has been in prison ever since. In 2009, a witness who picked Strickland out of a lineup said she was pressured to do so. The witness went to the Innocence Project looking to exonerate Strickland. I guess that was 4 more stories. Sorry, Michael.
I don't know. Do I even go backwards now? Do I? Can we just peel back the curtain? It's fun when we do it.
Sure.
Okay, so folks, this is essentially what we run off of. It's just called
a rundown.
It's called a rundown. It's just got all the different stories in order. And so Tanya was talking about former Governor Collier, and you ended with former Governor Collier endorsing Derek Schmidt. Mm-hmm. And I was gonna jump in and be like, you know, politics aside, folks, the fact that former Governor Collier has come out and he's fighting prostate cancer, you know, we're going to wish him the best. Everybody should wish him the best. And he happens to be a physician himself.
That is true.
Well, then I started thinking about, you say about Derek Schmidt, of course, 4 state ties. He went to Independence High School, went to Independence Community College, did the same thing you did, went to KU, got a journalism degree. And so I'm like, okay, we're gonna tie this in. We're gonna tie this all together. The thing is, when you pick up a rundown, you should look at the time. And so the fact that this one's from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. does me no good. And then I find the one that's labeled 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I go, oh yeah, there were like 5 stories after that. Great job, Michael. And so there you go, folks. A little behind the scenes peek at what just transpired when I opened my big mouth. And Tanya had a lot more reading to do. I apologize for that.
You know, and if we wouldn't have said anything, your mic probably wasn't even turned on and nobody would have known the difference.
Yeah, but that's not fun. I need everybody to know that, when like my faux pas, I do not cover. Are you a Sherlock Holmes fan?
Oh, yes.
Check that out. You know the first thing that comes to my mind? Hound of the Baskervilles.
Okay.
Yeah, with the fog rolling off the moors. Okay, we don't have moors outside of Television City, folks. It's as close as we can come. But yeah, it's a really interesting site. Now, the best thing is it's not really affecting roadways at all, and all that blue and green you see, nah, that's just the old sweeping radar. You got to get up to the north, and it is a mess up to the north. Severe thunderstorm warnings, pea-size hail, and 50-mile-an-hour winds. So if you have to jump on 69 or 49 and make your way toward Kansas City, please know, especially if you got to go north of KC today, it is going to be a downpour with flood warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. Not going to affect us. We just got to lock in for some heat as we're going to close out August in the low 90s.
Well, up next on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, softball season is now in full swing as we head to the Diamond. Plus, this morning, something to talk about. If you feel that today's deadline marks the end of U.S. involvement in Afghanistan, and new mask mandates for major Midwest cities, along with info from the CDC about how masking is working in schools. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Hi.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the Joplin Health Department reports 4 more COVID-related deaths. This brings the city's total to 164 deaths. The residents who passed included a 57-year-old male and 3 females ages 34, 61, and 63. A British study shows the Delta COVID-19 variant doubles the risk of hospitalization compared to the Alpha variant, which was first identified in the UK. Researchers analyzed 40,000 cases from March through May. They say most of the cases were among the unvaccinated. There's still no end in sight to this new COVID surge, with the Delta variant fueling a big spike in cases and hospitalizations. Brian Linus has more from New York.
The new COVID surge is accelerating, and the numbers are telling the story. The daily average, more than 156,000 cases in the U.S. as health officials scramble to contain the spread. New restrictions are now going into effect. Here in New York City, most outdoor festivals have been canceled or scaled back, including the West Indian Day Parade, which draws more than 3 million people to the city every year.
This is a decision these organizations made. I commend them for it, but they made the decision this was what was safe and healthy for their communities.
Hospitalizations are also increasing. The daily average now over 100,000 for the first time since January. Hospitals in many rural communities are now pleading for help, saying they've become overwhelmed with COVID patients. But on Monday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell closed the door on more federal funding for healthcare providers.
We've been spending an enormous amount of money, including a $1.9 trillion so-called rescue package earlier this year. Money's not the problem.
And as more schools reopen, vaccination rates are ticking up among young people, with parents finding creative ways to get shots in arms, including holding so-called vax parties where groups of kids can roll up their sleeves together.
Actually, I told my daughter, you need to get the vaccination. I'm like, you're not going to be able to go anywhere or do anything unless you have a vaccination.
We're currently averaging about 890,000 vaccine shots per day in the U.S., down slightly from last week. In New York, Brian Yennis, Fox News.
Masking and testing could help prevent coronavirus infections in at least half of susceptible K-12 students. It's according to projections modeled by researchers from North Carolina State University. Universal mask use plus randomized testing could reduce the proportion of infected students to as low as 1/4. The same data showed that without any mitigation measures, between 75 and 90% of susceptible students may get infected in the first 3 months of school. Susceptible students are those who are not vaccinated or do not have natural immunity. Two of Missouri's largest jurisdictions approve extensions of their mask mandates as COVID-19 continues to cause a big spike in cases and hospitalizations. St. Louis aldermen yesterday approved an extension of the city's indoor mask mandate at the request of Mayor Tishara Jones. The order that began July 26th is now extended through September 29th. The Jackson County Legislature voted to extend the public health order that would have expired September 7th. The order extends the county's mask mandate to October 7th.
You want to take a live look over 7th and Rangeline?
That sounds excellent.
Well, I wanted to point out the fact that, like I said, once we get into like the actual trafficked areas, we don't have to worry about that fog. I just thought the shot outside of Television City was kind of neat, since it was just, you know, rolling off the grass right there. 69 degrees is where we stand in Joplin, ranging anywhere from about 66 in Anderson, being our low spot of the morning, all the way up to the low 70s. We got 72 in Chanute. Miami's also chiming in at 66. Let's go 67 in Lamar. Now, eventually, we're going to be in the low 90s today. Slight chance of rain only for our northern counties, though. Won't even penetrate to the central portion of the 4 states. We'll be back right after this. At state last season and opening up the schedule yesterday against Nevada, and what a great one all the way through. Pick it up with Nevada already up 1 run in the 3rd. Kirsten Buck, 2 runners on. Get up, get out, get some. 3-run home run for Buck as the Tigers take a 4-0 lead. Now the bats get going for Webb City. Peyton Hawkins, bottom of the 3rd. Goodwood, goodbye. The solo home run. Let's play a little home run derby. Bottom of the 5th, still 4-1, Morgan Brannon. Gone. It's now 4-2. All right, another senior goes to work here in the 6th, Kaylin Gilbert. Gone. Gilbert goes oppo. We're tied at 4. Now, you don't have to hit home runs to win a game. Nah, Emma Welch says, I'm just going to gap you. Look at this. Welch to the fence. Shelby Gardner scores. Welch, walk-off double. Webb City wins at 5-4.
It was an inside pitch, and it felt amazing because she's been pitching outside. She did amazing with the outside corner, and so I was expecting outside, and she came with that inside, and I took my opportunity. It was my time to step up, and I knew what I had to do, and I had full confidence in myself, and I knew my teammates had confidence in myself. I could hear them from the dugout loud, and I just went up there with confidence, and it worked out for me.
That's tremendously fun, no matter how you cut it. Cardinals opening a series on the road against the Cards. Paul Goldschmidt see a 2-run home run as the Cardinals grab the first couple of runs of the game. Cincinnati able to get one back on the Kyle Farmer solo home run, but the Reds, they've only mustered 4 hits combined in their last 2 games. Tyler O'Neill puts the nail in the coffin. RBI single scores Dylan Carlson. Cardinals take the opener. 3-1 your final score. Kansas City Chiefs have waived former NEO A&M running back Darwin Thompson. Chiefs picked Thompson in the 6th round of the draft in 2019. The former Norseman appeared in 26 games for KC, picked up 225 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, and he also collected 108 yards and 2 more touchdowns receiving. Joplin Eagles picked up a big win to open the season on Friday, beat Webb City 41-40. That's their 3rd straight win over Webb. Took all 48 minutes, but a clutch kick from junior Joseph Ibsen finished the job as he connected from 42 yards as time expired to give the Eagles the 1-point win. We caught up with Ibsen to talk about that game winner.
As soon as it hit my foot, I could tell when you kick the football, it always makes a certain feeling and where it hits your foot. And you could tell by how when it left my foot that it was going through the uprights. And I looked up and it was through the uprights, and it was just a good feeling to know that me and the team had done it and beat Webb.
That was fun, obviously, for Joe. He's such a good kid, and kids that work hard like that, it's awesome to see things like that, you know, that to get that opportunity and to come through.
Congratulations, Joe. You'll never forget that, my man. Be back with more KOM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Take this time to honor today's 4-state hero. Petty Officer 2nd Class Michael Harry, a member of the United States Navy from 1971 to 1972, and again from 1990 to 91. He served during the Vietnam War and the Gulf War. His hometown, Pittsburgh, Kansas. We are proud to salute Michael Harry, our 4-state hero. The Taliban now has full control of Afghanistan, and the last U.S. troops have left the country. Bradley Blackburn has more on the historic moment and what happens now to Americans and Afghans who are left behind.
This grainy night vision image captures Major General Chris Donahue of the 82nd Airborne Division as he boarded a C-17 cargo plane, the last American service member to leave Afghanistan in America's longest war. With wheels up, it was the official end to a 20-year conflict. The final troops left Kabul's airport exactly 1 minute before President Biden's deadline for withdrawal.
And the last manned aircraft is now clearing the airspace above Afghanistan.
Some Afghans marked the moment with celebrations in the street. Others fired guns in the night sky. The Taliban now have full control of the airport, this video reportedly showing the moment they walked on the tarmac. With the U.S. military out, the State Department is now in charge of helping to evacuate Afghan allies and any remaining American citizens who wish to leave. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says between 100 to 200 Americans are still in Afghanistan.
The military mission is over. A new diplomatic mission has begun.
The United States military has begun strikes.
The conflict began with President Bush's orders after the 9/11 attacks. In 20 years, nearly 2,500 American service members lost their lives, tens of thousands more injured. Among the last casualties, Marines who were too young to remember the war's start.
We honor their sacrifice today as we remember their heroic accomplishments.
The sacrifices of a long war that is now over. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
According to Brown University's Cost of War project, more than 1,100 troops from coalition countries and more than 100,000 Afghan forces and civilians died in the conflict. President Biden plans to speak to the nation later today about the end of the war. In the rush to evacuate, billions of dollars in military equipment was left behind, including aircraft, Humvees, and other vehicles. Officials say that equipment was demilitarized, so it cannot be used. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, how the 4 states is helping victims of Ida's destruction. And DQ is back in town after a 2-decade hiatus. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:30. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Friday night's football game between Webb City and Joplin High School had many in the community excited, but events following the game left one man injured. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with local police, both school districts, and the injured man, and has these details.
If you were on Facebook or Twitter this weekend, you've probably seen images and videos shared following a football game between Joplin and Webb City high schools. Many unconfirmed claims were shared around, so KOAM reached out to the schools along with police dispatched to the scene to see what really happened. In a joint statement from Webb City and Joplin Schools Administration, we were told that following an investigation, there was no evidence of damage of the turf or any vandalism in the restrooms. However, there was a sink broken prior to halftime in the ladies' restroom on the home side, but there is no evidence that it was some sort of vandalism. Following claims of fights that broke out, we were sent a statement on Saturday from the Webb City Police Department. They said they were dispatched to 3 skirmishes on the parking lot of the high school football stadium after the game. According to the Webb City Police Department, no arrests have been made following Friday night's incident, and the department is still investigating. The victim of that assault they are investigating is Dennis Grissom, a 69-year-old man who lives nearby the stadium.
The people came back from the game, and Dennis and the kids was sitting there. And Dennis approached the people to see who they were, and the guy put his chest up onto Dennis's chest, and the kids looked away for a moment. They looked back, and Dennis was on the ground, and Dennis was hugging the guy, trying to just stop him from hitting. The dad had him in a headlock.
Split my sternum, and
his face.
And I've got a concussion. I had lumps and bumps beat all over me.
No students were reported to be involved with the assault, and the ones identified in the fights taking place in the parking lot have been identified from each school district and subject to each school's disciplinary policy. In Webb City, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
The full joint statement from Joplin and Webb City school districts will be available on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Officials face a tall order to get all Missouri nursing home workers vaccinated because fewer than half of them have received the shots. 48% of Missouri nursing home workers are vaccinated. That's the 3rd lowest number in the country, trailed only by Florida and Louisiana. Both of those states are reporting 47% of workers vaccinated. 82% of Missouri's nursing home residents are vaccinated, just below the national average. Chief Operating Officer for Prime Healthcare Management, which operates 7 nursing homes across Missouri, says he's already had several employees quit over the vaccine mandate the Biden administration announced for nursing home workers. Jackson County Prosecutor Jean Peters Baker files a motion asking a judge to exonerate a man who's been in prison for 4 decades for a triple murder that she and many others do not believe he committed. The motion was made public yesterday. It stems from a new law that gives local prosecutors the authority to ask judges to exonerate prisoners who they believe are innocent. Members of the team that prosecuted Kevin Strickland, federal prosecutors in the Western District of Missouri, Jackson County's presiding judge, Kansas City's Mayor Quentin Lucas, and some Republican members of Missouri legislature have all said Strickland should be released. Strickland was convicted of a triple murder in 1978 and has been in prison since. In 2009, a witness who picked Strickland out of a lineup said she was pressured to do so. The witness went to the Innocence Project looking to exonerate Strickland. According to Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards, around 25,000 linemen from 22 states are working to restore power in the area impacted by Ida. That includes crews from right here in the 4 states. KOAM's Zach Dodge has details.
Electric crews and linemen head to Louisiana and Mississippi to help with recovery from Hurricane Ida.
All we had to do was tell them that we had received a request, and we immediately had volunteers.
More than 1 million people across Louisiana are without power following the destructive storm, so a 4-man crew from Carthage Water and Electric left Saturday to make the trek down and are now going to Natchez, Mississippi.
They have about 50% just under their customers are without power right now, and so there's quite a bit of work to be done.
Linemen, vegetation management personnel, and police from Grand River Dam Authority, as well as crews from several fire departments across Oklahoma, also rolled out on Saturday.
So far, things seem to be going well. Our guys are well trained. They've been in this sort of incident before, so when they move in, they know what to expect.
Both Carthage Water and Electric and GRDA are lending a hand as part of a nationwide American Public Power mutual aid effort. And as soon as that request came in, they were ready for action.
It's them saying, we are ready to help, send us down there, let us go.
They talk about an Oklahoma standard, and I think these guys uphold that pretty well when they go into a situation like this to help however they need to. So our objective is just to help our neighbors and to do it as quickly and safely as possible.
Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt says more than 150 responders are currently deployed to Louisiana. The American Red Cross says if you want to help, monetary donations will go a long way. And we have links to where you can donate on this story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. After 20 years, Dairy Queen returns to Pittsburgh. The fast food chain was brought in by owner Raj Patel, who noticed the chain's departure from town left a blizzard-sized hole in the hearts of some residents. So we brought it back to a decent amount of fanfare from folks who were happy to have the fast food restaurant closer to home.
Family happy, and there is a Dairy Queen a little bit too much away from here, 40-50 miles. And people have to go all the way down there to get really great food and really sweet treats, the one they're missing here. So that was my first thinking to like, hey, let's get to the Dairy Queen.
The restaurant is a first of its kind in Kansas. It's called Grill and Chill 3.0, and it features a design not previously seen in the state.
It was packed yesterday.
It's a pretty big, cool place. Yeah.
But I mean, you know how big that parking lot is. There wasn't a parking spot available.
That's a good thing. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, they got off to a roaring start. Let me say. Live look over 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. It's a very pleasant Tuesday morning. Whole bunch of blue sky and sunshine as we sit. Right now it's 69 degrees, 72 in Chanute, 67 in Neosho and Miami, and let's roll 69s in both Fort Scott and Nevada. We'll take off the sweeping radar and talk about what is up to our north. Look at this. Now we're starting to see just a little bit of this fallout from this large system that has dominated north of Kansas City all morning long. They have had torrential rainfall, thunder, lightning, pea-sized hail. We're not going to get any of that, but we are starting to see just a little bit begin to drop our way, and to be honest, we are in the need of a little rain. It's not going to be widespread, though. It's going to be mostly our northern counties that pick up any precipitation. Of course, still keeping an eye on what are the remnants of now Tropical Storm Ida as it pushes through portions of Alabama, Georgia, and then into Tennessee and Kentucky. And the flood warnings persist all the way from the Gulf. Look at this, through D.C., through New York, through Boston. That's the track that Ida is going to continue to take. Here in the 4 states, as we get ready to wrap up August, we will be in the low 90s today, top out around 91 degrees. That's not far off from where we normally close out the month. There's that rain, and you'll notice while it hits our northern counties for later this morning and then early afternoon, it just does dissipate as it moves down to the south. And on Wednesday, we'll just about have a repeat of that. We try to get some rain filter in from the northern portions, but it just can't really make its way past I-44. Left-hand side, right-hand side of your screen, that gives you an idea that Ida does not want to slow down. Just keep on bringing the rain all the way Really until probably Thursday or Friday is when we'll finally see it break up. And by the time we get to Thursday and Friday, we're going to be concentrating on a hot September. Got some 94s coming at us this weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. America's longest war officially coming to an end. The last day of the United States military planes have now moved out of Afghanistan. Steve Nance has the latest. He's in D.C.
Taliban fighters firing off celebratory rounds. After nearly 20 years, the war in Afghanistan is officially over.
It's a mission that brought Osama bin Laden to a just end, along with many of his al-Qaeda co-conspirators. And it was not a cheap mission. The cost was 2,461 U.S. service members and civilians killed, and more than 20,000 who were injured.
The U.S. military conducting what it calls its largest non-combatant evacuation in history over the last 18 days.
More than 123,000 people have been safely flown out of Afghanistan. That includes about 6,000 American citizens.
Despite the United States' historic efforts, the U.S. top general in the Middle East says they weren't able to get everybody out that they wanted to get out.
I think if we'd stayed another 10 days, Louis, we wouldn't have gotten everybody out that we wanted to get out. And there still would have been people who would have been disappointed with that. It's a tough situation.
The mission to get people out is still underway. The United Nations Security Council has now approved a resolution for creating safe passage for people still seeking to leave Afghanistan from the Kabul airport, warning the Taliban that they should know that the world is watching them closely.
Zone, everybody must be allowed to safely leave Afghanistan for whatever reason, whenever they want, by air or by land.
In Washington, I'm Steve Nannis.
And on the end of the war in Afghanistan this afternoon, we made that the subject of our KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. We're asking, do you believe today marks the end of U.S. involvement in Afghanistan? And the numbers have been pretty overwhelming ever since we opened the poll. Right now, 88% of you say no. You do not believe that, despite the fact this is the White House mandated deadline of August 31, that we are done being involved. 12% of you say yes. The August 31 deadline says, yeah, that is the deadline. I appreciate everybody's engagement this morning, and tell you what, I had somebody pass this along, and I want to tell everybody this is a compliment as far as the rhetoric on Facebook goes about how polite and professional and dignified that your posts have been over the past couple of days. Because I know that we've certainly asked some political questions. Every now and then we get National Dog Day, right? We can't go wrong with that. But I did have somebody from another station that I was talking to who keeps up on our Facebook page, and they were just like, man, your viewers, they really treat each other kindly. And I greatly appreciate that, and I wanted to pass that along. Don't think that's lost on me at all. Once again, you can connect with us every single morning, whether it be via Facebook or by going to koamnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be back right after this.
In Consumer Watch this morning, today's cars are loaded with technology. Even the gas gauge has changed. And a new study looks at how reliable they are. Dina Demetrius with the breakdown when it comes to trying to get every mile out of every penny.
So this is AAA's Automotive Research Center.
AAA's Doug Shoup says the latest testing has researchers running cars on a treadmill to see how accurate the gas gauge is. And these days, drivers no longer just rely on the old school gauge.
More and more newer vehicles have these miles to empty gauges.
74% of car owners say they depend on the high-tech display to decide when to fill up. AAA looked at 16 vehicles and found most were accurate. However, one car overestimated fuel economy by 6.4%. Another underestimated it by almost 3%.
There is pretty significant variability based on speed, acceleration, how fast you accelerate, and also the distance that the driver is traveling. The bottom line is drivers really should not rely solely on this type of technology to determine when they need to fill up. When your gas tank gets to a quarter of a tank full, you need to go ahead and fill it up, because if you continually let that empty light come on, you're running it too close, and that could cause some very costly damage to your fuel pump.
To make your car more fuel efficient, Shoop suggests avoiding hard acceleration, keep the tires inflated to proper levels, and turn off the air conditioner when possible. That will draw less power from the engine and save on gas. Dina Demetrius, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Well, the latest movie in Marvel's cinematic universe arrives in theaters this weekend. Rick Damigella texts with the cast of Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings.
You have the wrong guy. Does he look like he can fight? Come on, bro.
Yes, actually, he can fight. Simu Liu is the newest hero of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Is this what you wanted?
You talk about the trajectory of someone's life being completely and forever changed. It sent me on the wildest journey ever, filming in Australia for over a year, and all of the amazing experiences that have come because of it. S-H-A-N-G, Shang.
Shang?
Yeah.
You changed your name from Shang to Sean?
It was kind of trippy to even just be there as an actress, because we're playing with such in such the real world, right? Like in San Francisco, and when we're first introduced, and then we are suddenly in this kind of crazy universe. And I think that's just Marvel, I think it's one of those rare platforms where you could really travel seamlessly between just these really crazy different places.
We knew that we wanted this movie to take us to a pretty fantastical level from the beginning. And we also knew that we wanted to start people in a very grounded place.
You can't outrun who you really are.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings will debut exclusively in movie theaters this Friday. We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Just as mysteriously as it rolled up off of the grass outside of Television City, all of a sudden, our fog is now a thing of the past. It was only here for maybe about 20 minutes. 7th and Rangeline has just been gorgeous all morning long, with plenty of sunshine and blue sky and a very comfortable 69 degrees. 70 right now in Pittsburgh. How about 70 as well in the Neodesha? Monette, 65. How comfortable could this be? 68 in Miami. Now, we know the heat's a-coming. Let's take off the old sweeping radar. She's just been finicky here past couple of days, and here we go. In our far northern counties, we're starting to see a little fallout of the thunderstorm activity that has dominated north of Kansas City all morning long. And as this thing does actually push off to the east, you can tell it riding just on the north side of I-70. We are starting to see just little offshoots of it. We're certainly not going to have anything as organized nor severe as what they've had this morning, and really any rain that we do pick up is kind of a welcome sight for what it's been through the month of August. As we take a look at what's left of Ida, we still got a long way to go with it. Look at the rain lasting essentially down from the Gulf Coast all the way up to Pennsylvania right now, and so you take into account those flood warnings, and we're working from New Orleans through D.C., through New York, all the way to Boston. And that's going to be there until Thursday or Friday. Now, for us, we're going to go low 90s today. And speaking of Thursday and Friday, that's when the heat's really going to creep in. You'll see all the rain. The northern counties, you're going to get some precipitation here. It's the central and southern portions that are going to be hard pressed because everything drops in from the north and then breaks up after that. Now, as we turn the calendar into September, that's when we go one by one, 91, 92, 93, 94. So by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday, we're liable to have those heat advisories come back into play. We'll be back and wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
We'll move over Dalmatians. A little baby pig is taking the spotlight at one firehouse in Brooklyn, New York. Penny, the fire pig, is 3 months old and was adopted by firefighter Darren Harris. Penny spends much of her time hanging with the firefighters at Engine 239 in Park Slope. She's become somewhat of a local celebrity. Many stop by to snap pictures and feed her snacks. And with the new addition, the firefighters are no longer eating pork around the firehouse. That's good news. She's so cute.
Yeah, so much for that firehouse breakfast, huh?
I'd find something else to barbecue.
Change your plans a little bit.
No longer got sausage on the menu. Yep.
I wanted to throw that story in there because you did such a good job with all our animal stories from yesterday.
I had to have one today.
I couldn't
for
trump
sure.
it. I just wanted to throw an animal story in. Thank you all so much for letting us put the good in your morning. We're going to be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.